بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الفاتح الخاتم وعلى آله حق قدر الدار العظيم. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praises are due to the Almighty Allah, the Lord of the universe, the most beneficent, the most merciful, the sovereign of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and from you alone we implore help. Guide us to straight path, the path of those whom you have favored, neither of those who have incurred your wrath, nor of those who have gone astray. O Allah, maintain your praise persistently upon our chief and master Muhammad, the key to that which is closed, the seal to that which is past, the upholder of the truth by the means of truth, the proper guide to your steadfast, and upon his family according to his eminence and his great honor. Assalamu alaikum once again. Good afternoon, everyone. I am back on my series of lectures of the topic, the Divine Mandate series. If you can remember, in the last session, we were discussing the arena created by the verses of the chapter Surah Ibrahim, or the chapter titled Abraham, an arena where all the prophets were congregated and addressed by the Almighty Allah in a manner. In fact, they were congregated regardless of their respective ages, regardless of their respective time in which they existed, and their unbelievers were equally gathered together in one place, while the prophets were addressing them as if all the prophets were sent all at once to their respective nations. So the Almighty Allah summarized the messages of the entire prophets to their people, and such messages were narrated when they were conveyed to their people, and the responses were equally narrated. And having recited the verses and explained them in the last episode, we cited an example to elaborate the point with the story of Prophet Jethro in the chapter Surah Al-Araf, or the Heights, where Prophet Jethro was engaging his people. Having preached to them, their response came in the same way the responses of the unbelievers to the prophets were narrated in the chapter Abraham. When the Almighty Allah said in the chapter Abraham, وَأَوْحَى إِلَيْهِ وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لِرُسُلِهِمْ لَنُخْرِجَنَّكُمْ مِنْ أَرْضِنَا أَوْ لَتَعُودُنَّ فِي مِلَّتِنَا. Remember when the unbelievers responded to their prophets when they were preached that we will surely drive you out of our lands, or you must revert to our creed of idol worshipping. So we gave an example of how Prophet Jethro in the chapter Surah Al-Araf, his people issued the same threat to him when they said, قال الملأ الذين استكبروا من قومه لنخرجنك يا شعيب والذين آمنوا معك من قريتنا أو لتعودن في ملتنا لنخرجنكم من أرضنا أو لتعودن في ملتنا لنخرجنك يا شعيب والذين آمنوا معك من قريتنا أو لتعودن في ملتنا. We will certainly drive you out of our land or of our town, or you must revert to our creed of polytheism. Then he said, أَوَلَوْ كُنَّا كَارِهِينَ. You mean, even if it is against our will, you mean you are ready to enforce That is, you are ready to force your creed on us to accept against our wishes. أولو كنا كارهين قد افترينا على الله كذبا إن كنا في ملته. Certainly we have fabricated a great lie against Almighty Allah. Should we yield to your demand of reverting to the creed of polytheism? No prophet had ever practiced polytheism before he received the divine message. But the prophet was speaking on behalf of his followers who, prior to the divine message, were polytheists. That is why he said, "In udna fi millatikum," if we ever revert to the creed of idol worshipping. Because he never practiced idol worshipping. But as I said earlier, he was speaking on behalf of his followers. But in the Janallah, after the Almighty Allah delivered us from polytheism, وَمَا يَكُونَ أَنْ نُدْفِيَ إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّنَا. In fact, we have no intention whatsoever to revert back to that creed, except of course if the Almighty Allah wishes something else. Here, he made this exception so as to comply with the divine order in the chapter Surah Al-Kahf, where the Almighty Allah said, وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. Don't ever say that I have the intention of doing certain things, or I'm doing so things tomorrow, except by the will of Allah. You must say insha'Allah. That's why he said illa an yasha'Allahu rabbuna, except if our Lord wishes something else. But for us, we have no intention of going back to the idol worshipping. Alallahi tawakkalna. It's in him who put our utmost trust. Rabbana ftah baynana wa bayna qawmina bil haqq. O our Lord, give your judgment between us and our people. That is, judge between us and them. Show who is on the true path and who is not. If Tabain and we are the best of all judges. So, in this context, we can understand that the problem of the unbelievers of all nations with their prophets stems from the fact that they couldn't reconcile themselves with the reality of having a mortal prophet. They failed to reconcile the idea of having, or they failed to come to terms with the idea of having a mortality combined with prophethood in one person. For them, no mortal is qualified enough to speak on behalf of God. That's why Abashara minna wahidan nattabi'u inna idhan lafi dalalin wasur. أول يذكر عليه من بيننا بل هو كذاب أشر سيعلمون غدا من الكذاب الأشر إنا مرسل الناقة فتنة لهم فارتقبوا واصطبروا. It is the common response across the ages of humankind that unbelievers give to their prophets. A mortal, a human being, one of us, expecting us to follow him, just because he claims prophethood, he claims divine mandate, that is mandated by God to speak on his behalf. If we do that, that means we are lost. Then we have fallen into a great loss. So, and this, as I said earlier, happened to Prophet Hud, Prophet Saleh, Prophet Moses, when he conveyed the divine message to Prophet Saleh, Prophet Abraham, when he conveyed his message to the people of Babylon. Although, when we observe the engagement of Prophet Abraham with his people, this particular point was not so much emphasized. That's the mortality of Abraham. Abraham was very philosophical in his approach when he conveyed the divine message to the people of Babylon. He engaged them in a philosophical debate, a very interesting one, that put the two perspectives against each other. Abraham started by asking them logical questions for them to answer, because no engagement is more interesting than asking the person you want to engage. You want to know his idea, you want to know his views before you preach anything to him. You want to know his perception, his worldview. That's why the Almighty Allah narrated the debate in its details in the chapter titled Prophets, Surah Al-Anbiya. The Almighty Allah narrated to us how Abraham approaches people. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد آتينا إبراهيم رشده من قبل وكنا به عالمين. Certainly we have provided Abraham with co-guidance. Rushdu is not merely a guidance, it is co. It represents the co-guidance. That is the innermost of guidance. وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ رُشْدَهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ, a long time ago, وَكُنَّا بِهِ عَالِمِينَ, and we are very much aware of him. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ وَقَوْمِهِ مَا هَذِهِ التَّمَاثِيلُ الَّتِي أَنْتُمْ لَهَا عَاكِفُونَ. You see the logic, you see the philosophy. Remember when he asked his father, of course his uncle, Azar, his paternal uncle, when he asked him, Ma hadhihi tamathil, he asked his uncle and his people, that is the people of Babylon, what are those images, what are those idols to which you are so devoted? Why? Ma hadhihi tamathil allati antum la akifun. Of course, no one would expect Abraham, by this question, he wanted to know the substance of which the idols were crafted. No, far from it. He was very much aware of the substance of which they were created. He wanted to know of what value do they represent? Why this devotion to them? Why? In what way do they deserve all this devotion from human beings? Why? What is the basis? There must be some sort of basis for this devotion. Why? That is why in their response, they did not explain to him the substance of which the idols were crafted, because they knew, of course, that was not what he wanted to know. He did not have to ask for him to know of what substance they were created, either of stones or of wood. That is why when he asked them, قالوا وجدنا آباءنا لها عابدين. قالوا وجدنا آباءنا لها عابدين. What was their response? They said, well, nothing justifies our devotion to the idols except the fact that we have found our forebears so devoted to them. We have found our forefathers worshipping them and no more. This is the only logical justification for our devotion to the idols and no more. And such kind of devotion requires greater justification than merely meeting one's father doing something like this. Because one can live but only once. And once one's life expires, one has another world to go there and account for whatever he did in this world. And you wouldn't expect to give this as an answer to your Creator, that the right of your Creator, you diverted the right of your Creator to another being. Because as I said in quite a number of sessions, that the first logical question that you need to ask yourself while in this world is, why do I exist? What brought me here? First and foremost, I can't just travel from non-existence into existence just for no purpose. It's a long journey to travel from non-existence. It takes a lot to come out of non-existence into existence. So one needs to pause for a moment to ask himself this question, or to ask themselves this question: why do we exist? For what purpose? Just to come here, enjoy or suffer, and then leave the world, or live the way we want and then depart from the world, only for us to be applauded for a life well spent? Does it make any sense? Do you think that, is there anyone in Abuja, for example, if you travel from here to Abuja to live a very fulfilling life, and you expect anyone to applaud you for that? Because you have a very fulfilled life? No. People will judge you based on the impact of your services. What can you offer? That what concerns them. And of course, we can't just claim creating ourselves. We must have been created by a greater being. And that being must have the right. We must concede to him the right to explain to us the purpose of our creation. He alone has the right, has the prerogative right to tell us the purpose of our creation, and no more, and no one else. And he equally has the right to give us, after having explained to us the purpose, he has the right to tell us the way and manner he wants us to serve that purpose. How he wants it. And that can be conveyed to us only through prophethood and apostleship. Only prophets can do that service. And that is the mandate given to the prophets. And that's why Abraham, as I said earlier, was very logical and philosophical in his approach. When he asked them, we encountered our forebears worshipping them, and no more. a very good answer anyway, that will provide a lead to a more philosophical engagement. قال لقد كنتم أنتم وآباؤكم في ضلال مبين. He says, certainly you and your forebears have fallen into an obvious misguidance. You are obviously misguided to identify the purpose of your worshiping, or rather to just define the philosophy behind your existence within the context of worshiping idols that did not create you. You rather created them. Is it not an irony that the Almighty created you so that you should worship Him, and you ended up worshiping idols you crafted with your own hands? Can't you feel something? Can't you feel ashamed of yourself? If the Almighty will tell Adam that, will tell the devil, ما منعك أن تسجد لما خلقت بيدي. Why didn't you fall down in prostration to what I have created with my hands? أستكبرت أم كنت من العالين. لقد كنت أنت أباك في ذلك قالوا أجيتنا بالحق أم أنت من اللاعبين. The people of Abraham asked him, they wanted seriousness. أجيتنا بالحق أم أنت من اللاعبين. Want to know in all seriousness that what you are preaching, is it a true message from the Almighty Allah, or you are just joking? أم أنت من اللاعبين. قال بل ربكم رب السماوات والأرض الذي فطرهن وأنا على ذلك من الشاهدين. Certainly, engagement of this nature supersedes simple joke. You can't call it a joke because no conversation can be more serious than this. Conversation with regard to the divinity, that's conversation concerning the Almighty Allah. بل ربكم رب السماوات والأرض الذي فطرهن. Your Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. الذي فطرهن, the same Lord that created them. وأنا على ذلك من الشاهدين. And I can bear witness to this fact, to the fact that all of you, including the entire universe, which consists of the heaven and the earth and all what lies between the two, were crafted by one and single God and for a purpose. وأنا على ذلك من الشاهدين. So when they failed to accept the message and they persisted in their unbelief and idolatry, on the day of the one of the festives that Alhamdulillah. On the festival day, when they wanted to go to celebrate their festival day, as they departed, Abraham said, before they left, they wanted him to join them. فنظر نظرة في النجوم فقال إني سقيم. He told them that I don't feel okay, I'm not fine. I feel sick, so I can't join you. Then they departed. They headed for their festival celebration. And then watallahi like danna asnamaku bada an tawallu birina. Then he said, after they left, I am going to scheme against your idols after your departure. فَجَعَلَهُمْ جُزَازًا فَرَاغَ إِلَىٰ آلِهَتِهِمْ فَقَالَ أَلَا تَأْكُلُونَ مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَنطِقُونَ فَرَاغَ عَلَيْهِمْ ضَرْبًا بِالْيَمِينِ فَأَقْبَلُوا إِلَيْهِ يَزِفُونَ. Abraham was so philosophical, so much so that he served some food to the idols for him to show them the futility of their service to the idols. He served them some food and asked them, "Allah ta'kulu, won't you eat? Ma lakum la tantiquna, why can't you speak?" Then Faraga alayhim darban bil yamin. And having exhausted all this, he broke the idols into pieces and he spared the biggest one, because the idols were of different sizes. So he spared the biggest one of them and he destroyed the rest. He did that for a reason. He left the biggest one to serve as a reference point, so that he would use the biggest one to guide them out of polytheism, to show them philosophically how bad polytheism is. Then when they came back, when he finished destroying them, he took that's the instrument he used in breaking the idols. He placed it on the neck of the biggest idol. As they came back, they found their idols being destroyed. And they started shouting, "Man fa'ala hadha bi alihatina innahu lamina adh-dhalimin." Who did this to our idols? Whoever is he must be a wicked man. He must be an unjust person and unfair. Those that were around testified that they had a young man talking about the idols and undermining them. Ibrahim, by the name Abraham. Despite the fact that they were infidels, they were idol worshippers, yet they had some certain degree of fairness and justice, because they demanded that Abraham be brought to their presence for them to question him, to confirm whether he was the one who did this to their idols or not. Bring him in the presence of everybody, so that they may testify. When he was brought in, Abraham was asked, "A'anta fa'alta hadha bi alihatina ya Ibrahim?" Oh Abraham, are you the one that did this to our idols? قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا. He showed to the biggest one. He said, "It is this one that it is this that is the big of them, the biggest of them all, was the one that destroyed them, claiming that he couldn't tolerate smaller idols being worshipped along with him." You see, You see where Abraham was headed to? If the biggest idols couldn't have some patience to tolerate smaller idols, he couldn't share the devotion of worshippers with the smaller idols. What more of the creator of the whole world? You see the logic? You see the philosophy? فَاسْأَلُوهُمْ إِنْ كَانُوا يَنْطِقُونَ. Ask them if they can speak. Ask the broken idols if they can speak. They themselves will tell you that it is the biggest one that couldn't tolerate sharing anything, sharing devotion with them. The devotion of worshippers with them. That's why he broke them into pieces. He couldn't stand seeing smaller idols being worshipped alongside, along with him. No. He must be worshipped alone. Him alone and no more. You see how he was taking them out of polytheism into monotheism through logic and philosophy. So, due to the time factor, I think we have to stop here, inshallah. When we come back in the next session, we're going to continue exactly where we stop. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان الله. السلام عليكم.